Welcome everybody to this World Satsanga held on the 27th of March 2021 in conjunction with Kevin Moore and The Moore Show, and I invite you to visit his YouTube channel. He's got some excellent broadcasts on there surrounding the subject of channelers, and it's called They Call Us Channelers, and he's got a new broadcast on there which is very, very good. I think it's worthwhile looking at. Okay, so let's have a look at the agenda for this month. We've got lots of questions actually, so I might have to cut them in half and use half of them for March, for April. So we'll see how that goes. So the first part is how do scientists affect the results of quantum physics experiments? Then there's all of the questions. Thank you very much. And then we have another meditation for actually meeting the Om. I've got a request from somebody to meet the Om, so we'll see if we can do that. So that means that we probably will have to reduce the number of questions or answer them, but don't worry, those of you who put the questions in, which is MO, FN, US, and where are we? Another individual, can't see them now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll find it out. So there's a lot of questions here, a lot of questions, and I think it'll be worthwhile maybe spending some more time on answering them. So rather than sort of trying to rush through them all in one day, I shall hopefully try and broadcast them on in April as well. So first part, looking at how do scientists affect the results of quantum physics. The physical universe, which is what we're relating to, and not specifically the multiversal environment, is what is focused on for quantum physics. But the thing is that the quantum physics aspect of it is simply a projection or a creation sustained by ourselves, but also sustained by the source, of course. Because the physical universe is part of it's just one component, a rather unique component of the multiverse, which is part of its own structure, which is compartmentalized to allow smaller parts of itself, our true energetic selves, to experience itself in minute detail. And so everything that's in the physical universe is affected by everything that's in the multiverse. And so as a result of that, we don't quite understand the effect that has. So when scientists have experiments, and these experiments don't exactly go as planned, or shall we say, they don't provide the answers to the questions in the way that they expected the answers to the questions to come, or the answers change, then there is a thought process that maybe there's something else going on, which is a reasonable thought process, because basically what's going on is that the power behind thought is immense. We have a calculation, or should I say, a linear progression of desire, intention, thought and action. And it's not specifically associated with our thought processes and how we bring them into fruition. It's associated with everything we interact with. So when we have an experiment, and the classic experiment which is being broadcast quite a lot is this double slit experiment, where a number of sort of light particles or light waves, or whatever you want to call them, are projected through from a source to go through these slits and to be then captured on the other side by a receiver. They are sometimes classified as being light particles, or sometimes classified as being light waves. And so the thought process, or the theory that light is a particle, as a photon, that's also classified as a wave, because lights are waves, because it's frequency, it doesn't quite solve a problem, because it's not allowing the concept of light being whatever it is to be classified as being whatever it is. And so what happens is, when we have scientists who are interested in this experiment or any other experiment, their intention to find something out, or their lack of focus surrounding to find something out, creates a change in the way that aspect of the experiment works. And so in this instance, when you're firing light, in whatever modality it's in, wave, or particle through these slits, it either comes out as a wave or a particle, depending upon the thought processes or the interactions with the experiment that the experimenters have got. So we interact with an experiment more, by and large, in a subconscious way. Because if we think that, well, with light's a particle, then we might get it through as a particle. Or if we think light's a wave, then we might get it through as a wave. But if we've got a number of scientists involved who have, some of them think it's a particle, some of them think it's a wave, depending upon who's involved with it and when they're thinking about the experiment, and they don't have to be in the same room as the experiment, they can be anywhere in the world, but thinking about the experiment, then they can affect how the experiment results, or they can affect how the experiment changes and then changes the results. So what we have here is the interesting conundrum where anything that we're doing from a quantum perspective isn't exactly quantifiable in a physical way. We can't say that quarks are quarks, or strangers and charm are all part of they're all the same thing. We can't say there's anti-quarks, we can't say there's antimatter, because at the end of the day, matter is a function of the gross physical, which is a function of 6 levels of quanta, which are going down from the atom all the way down to the anu, because the anu is the anu, which was discovered by Besant and Leadbetter, and also previously described by Hindu yogis as being the first manifestation of solidity, of physicality. And so everything we do affects everything we do. And so when we create an experiment, we expect it to work in a certain way. And so it works in a certain way, unless we have a completely free mind. And this means that things like the Large Hadron Collider aren't actually doing anything decent in terms of an experiment. It's a huge piece of expense. It's over a huge, vast area, kilometres long, and it gives us an example of what we want to see. If we were totally open-minded and in a total acceptance, and were totally expansive, we wouldn't need to use such machinery to get the answers we want. We just need to ask Source for it. We just need to understand it from a different perspective. We need to be on a higher level, higher frequential level, to be able to understand that from a physical perspective, a lot of the physical universe isn't apparent to us, because we are only observing basically a quarter of it. Or should I say, not even that, a tenth, if you think about it, because the first 3 frequencies, mankind thinks that they're dimensions, creates the gross physical. Then after that, every level above that creates a different level of physicality, which is more and more diffuse. And so, in effect, in the physical universe, we have 10 levels of existence that can be experienced whilst still having to have the need to incarnate. So the first 3 frequencies create the gross physical. The next frequency, the 4th frequency, which is the lower astral, creates the opportunity to have a higher level of frequency but still being in the physical. The 5th, again, a higher level of, or higher frequency relationship with the physical, but still being physical and still needing to have incarnation. So everything we do is basically, from our perspective, focused upon the gross physical, but actually we affect all of the frequencies within the physical universe. So scientists affect the results of experiments through their expectations, which is based upon previous knowledge. And that previous knowledge can and does result in constraints or resistance to understanding the greater reality as it is. And so when you look at the result of firing light and it going through 2 slits, and sometimes it's a wave and sometimes it's a particle, what are we learning? We are learning that scientists can affect the outcome of the experiment by what they think, irrespective of where they are or how they're interacting with it, irrespective of where they are. They could be in the pub, for instance, talking about it while the experiment's going on, or even before, or even after the experiment, and that'll affect the outcome of the experiment. Right now, scientists are suggesting that light is both a particle and a wave. And whether it's a particle or a wave is, by and large, affected by the interaction, the outside interaction of some level of consciousness or sentience that creates it. But in essence, what the light is what we want it to be. Okay? It is, in effect, both particle and wave. Or nothing that is associated with the gross physical. And so, if we, as scientists, were able to detach from the constraints of the so-called laws of physics that we have created as part of the gross physical, or our interaction with the gross physical over the last 300 or 400 years, we would be able to see things as they really are, because we wouldn't be constrained by gross physicality. We'd only be working with that which is achievable. We wouldn't have any limitations. We wouldn't have any thought processes that are governed based upon previous knowledge bases. If we had not been constrained by certain laws of physics, by certain individuals such as Einstein, Newton, Copernicus, all these different people, Galileo, then we would know more than we do right now. Now, clearly, these people have been landmarks and massive milestones from a scientific perspective, and they've made a massive contribution towards science. But what they've done, in essence, in their contribution, has created a framework that the future scientists or subsequent scientists have used to create new models for understanding the physical universe. And those models have been constrained by previous work. So rather than having new discoveries that are completely novel, that are not based upon previous thought modalities or constructs or physical constructs or scientific calculations, we would have been able to have understood more. So when we, as experimenters, enter into an experiment to discover something, we need to be totally and utterly open, in total acceptance. And it may well mean that the experiment, the materials of the experiment that we're of the experiment that we're going to use to try to find the answer to a question aren't needed. We might not need to have large colliders. We might not need to throw light through slits. We might not need to use huge magnetic forces to try to control electrons. We might just need to be able to meditate and understand it from that perspective. We need to understand that everything we do, we have the power to affect. And in thinking as based upon desire and intention in a certain way, remember, desire, intention, thought, action isn't always about how we interact with others. It's about how we normally interact, full stop. Creates an outcome based upon sometimes a limited concept. So every time we have a concept, we need to make sure that concept is a milestone, and it is only a milestone. It is not something we would use as a means of generating the next level of understanding. It is simply something that we've achieved at one point. So every time we make an experiment, we need to throw away all the previous knowledge base we've had and start from scratch every time. No expectations, no reference points, no confusion, no references, no use of milestones, no use of springboards or kickstarts. Okay? We need to start from scratch, and then we might find much more about the physical universe above and beyond those that are affected by or created by our current frequency levels. Okay, well I hope that's answered a few questions. The other thing to note, to affect and understand, is that everything in the physical universe is everything else. The concept of things like entanglement or the creation of entanglement, again, is a limited function. It's a limited thought process, because it's creating a directive thought rather than recognising that everything is everything else and has the capacity to be everything else. So my watch can be my car because there's enough physicality there to create the car. Or my eye could be an aeroplane, jumbo jet. Is a concept we have to think that everything that we have, every part of physicality, has the ability to be everything else. And then when we understand that, then we'll understand that the rules that we've got in physics and quantum physics are simply limiting us in our understanding or our ability to understand this particular aspect of the multiversal environment that we're in, the physical universe. Okay, so let's have a look at these questions. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm probably going to, like I say, split them in half at first and see what happens, okay? So this is from MO. I'm going to look at this. First question, are Lemurian seed crystals really what humans say they are? They are really pricey crystals, but I'm a bit sceptical about their stories. It feels like most of them are just marketing strategies. Yeah, I mean, how do we know a crystal's from Lemuria? How do we know it's from Crete, or do we know it's from a mine in outer Mongolia? We only have the say of the individual who's selling it to understand that's where it's come from. That's its origin. So my idea is that my feeling is, I should say, that just feel the crystal first before you buy it. Now, crystals, like everything else, respond to psychometry, respond to your intention to get information from them. So ask them where they've come from. Don't go into a shop and spend, $100 or something on a crystal because somebody says it's from Lemuria, or it's from Atlantis, or it's from some other part of the world in a deep and prehistorical condition. Ask the crystal what it is before you buy. Next question, how does the OM's energetic signature differ from the origin? Are they similar? In essence, it's the same, because the OM are individualized units of the origin, but they're unintentional individualized units, and so therefore they are mini. You could classify them as mini origins, although that's probably a bit preposterous. They are smaller individualized units of origin, so they are pure origin, but they are individualized as a function of basically the reuse of that energy without it being reassigned properly. So it's pre-programmed on origin energy that was used to create, along with other reprogrammed energies, to create source entities, but actually didn't mix because it had a different level of understanding of what it was. And so that which was previously used to create the 12 origin experiment stayed as origin. It didn't mix to become 12 source entities. Okay, so it's the same. It's the same, but of course they have different experiences, and so that demarks the differential between that which is the origin in totality and that which is smaller individualized units of origin that are uncreated as part of a creation. Okay, they are the uncreated creations. Next question, are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, full-time professional meditators that you talked about previously connected with the source entity on the origin, or just the source entity? There's not many that would be in contact with the origin, basically because of their own limitations. They, as I believe a young gentleman called Roy Eugene Davis once asked Paramahansa Yogananda back in the very late 40s, early 50s, how many people have gone beyond God? And Yogananda says, not many. They get basically infatuated with God, and they don't move beyond God to that which is beyond God, the all there is. And the all there is the absolute, as the Hindus call it, is the origin. So you can probably say that there's a significant number, less than 1%, that are in contact with the origin. But a lot of them are in contact with the source, or God. Next question is, how come we don't hear about the origin from others besides you? Are others referring to the origin by different names? Yeah, I mean, again, the Hindu yogis, they understood that the origin is that which is beyond God. They do talk about it. And when I first started to be in contact with the origin, I didn't know that at all, that there was a limited number of individuals who know about the origin at all. And it was only later, when I opened a random page in a book that was given to me by an old Aikido student of mine, and that book was a very ancient book. It was published by a yogi who lived in Chicago back in the early 1900s, and he mentioned the origin but called it the absolute. And later, much later, I was able to read the autobiography of a yogi, that I realised that the origin was the same thing. So really, it is individuals who are expansive enough to be able to recognise the fact that there is another much larger level of sentience above the source entities. So, in reality, it's all there is, that which is beyond God, the absolute. Those are the ways it's described. Next question, what are the key factors to establish stable connection with the origin, and how can we maintain it? Learn to have constant communication with the source entity first, and then ask for its assistance in connecting you with the origin. Connecting with the source entity is a significant achievement whilst incarnate. It's not something that everybody does. And there are many who seek it, but sometimes their own desire creates a blockage. So my advice is, do your best to meditate, do your best to disassociate yourself from the gross physical, and in doing so enlist the help of the source. And then when you're competent in your connectivity with the source, and you can turn it on and turn it off as and when required, or at will, then you can ask for the source to help you in understanding and working with the connections required to get in contact with the origin. So that's basically, those are the key factors. Next question, how many people on the current earth are consciously in communion with the source entity? Based upon the fact that we've got 7.8 billion, now this is an American billion, not a UK billion. So American billion is 1,000 million, not a million, as it used to be. This is for basically computational needs rather than how we used to define the jumps from one particular metric to another metric. I'm seeing just a few thousand, but not even that, maybe. Not even that. Not even individuals who are yogis are in contact with the source. Not even yogis who've been meditating hard and diligently for 30 or 40 years are in contact with the source. Maybe because they're doing something wrong. Some individuals can be in contact with it instantaneously. Others may take a bit longer. But in general, it takes dedication and complete open-mindedness. Okay, next question. And how many are consciously in communion with the origin? even less. I'm being told less than 100. Okay, less than 100. So it's quite a lot of people there who are not in contact. Okay. So I'm going to end those questions there with the MO, because I want to swap them and use some of them for April's Satsanga. And then we've got some questions from US. Just to let you know, there's 4 more questions from MO that I want to use in April. Okay. US has, taking into account the lecture, has asked a bunch of questions based upon quantum physics. So here's with the transcription, there's going to be the questions, and with the questions there'll be the links to various different locations where some of the questions have been derived from, because some of this is published matter, and the questions are based upon existing published matter. Okay, so here's a science question based upon a recent article in the Asymmetry of Antimatter in the Proton, which is in Nature. Please comment as if this is an example of scientists' influence over results, or if there is a more fundamental reason behind it, e.g. better particle detectors or experimental design. Okay. So, first one. First one. There's only a few questions here, so I might finish this, but then there's other questions here we might be able to... we might be able to come back to MO yet. We'll have a look, see how fast I can go through these questions. Researchers at Fermilab have confirmed there is a confusing imbalance in the antimatter inside every proton, which is made up of two quarks and a bottom quark sticking together using their strong nuclear force. For every one of those quark types, there's a mirror opposite, an antiquark. Okay. There's no real such thing as antimatter. I mean, it's something that's been created as a function of science, seeing things as positives and negatives, and the physical universe being duality. So it's the objective things having opposites is not strictly true. So this is something that we expect to see. We expect to see an opposite, because when we have things like electricity, we have positive and negative. We have an earth, but there has to be something that creates the circuit. But that's a loop. A circuit is a loop, basically. Okay, we sometimes have a battery that's there, but the positive and negative of the battery is the connection of that loop in the battery, and then we've got the thing being activated, either a bulb or an LED or a small motor. That creates the loop. So the loop is the battery with that being activated or excited, which is a light or a motor. So rather than think of it as a loop, they're thinking of it as being positive and negative. Okay, and that thought process also comes into the idea of how things are within the physical universe. Next part of it is when one type of quark meets its anti-quark match, the pair vanish back into the sea, leaving a virtual flicker of a photon in its wake. If we imagine a proton like a balloon of quarks zipping about with a variety of energies, those momentums say something about the kinds of quarks popping in and out of existence. So what's happening is basically that the combination of those quarks together is allowing it to present itself as in one frequency level versus another, and the movement from one frequency to another has an effect, and that effect is the generation of something. Now in this instance they talk about a photon, but in this instance it could be anything, because that particular pair of quarks, or whether they call them anti-quark or quark 1 and quark 2, and positive quarks or negative quarks, doesn't matter, is moving into a different frequency. So it moves from one frequency to another without anything else other than happening, other than that space needing to be occupied by something that's in the first frequency level. And the other thing to recognise is that what appears to be a photon might be something that's come from the higher frequency, because as I've just said, the combination of these two quarks together creates the potential to go into the next frequency level, or change what they are from quarks to something else. So I'm also being shown here that there's a potential to have a location within this particular frequency, a high point in this low frequency be in contact with a low point in the next frequency, up the fourth frequency, and there is one thing leaks in, one thing leaks out. So another way to think about it is it's a potential expectation. And also the other thing to observe is that sometimes when one thing goes from one point to another point, there's a momentary portal there, a momentary keyhole observation of what's in that next particular location, which may present itself as a photon because that's expected by the experimenters. Next part. Older experiments found that once the quark's momentum was high enough, some flavours of anti-quark did become more common, the up ones. Again, this feels like it's an expectation that something might be different. I mean, don't forget quarks are leptons. The strangeness and charm, the strangeness and charm are 3 particles that are classified as being leptons. So they're not. So that there's 3 different versions of the same thing basically, and so these things will change. And of course, the opportunity to manipulate it based upon what expected will affect the outcome of the experiment. And it's saying here, however, new experiments on quark momentums found that the abundant down antimatter quarks. I'll start again. But new experiments on quark momentums found more abundant down antimatter quarks than up antimatter quarks over a wide range of momenta. So in effect, it's showing that there's if we have confused thought within the group of experimenters, this can affect the outcome of the experiment. And so really what we're saying is the link between the old experiments and the new experiments is that there is influence on the results of the experiments based upon the thought processes of the experimenters themselves, and hence the desire to find something different creates something different. You only have to we want to find something different, and we create the opportunity to find something different, and so that's what creates these differences. So this question is based upon a decades-long experiment finds strange mix of antimatter in the heart of every proton, and there's a link here to that particular piece of research that will be part of the transcript. It'll be the answers that are transcribed. And it's interesting here. It says, as always in particle physics, a lot more information is needed before matter is settled. Before this matter, is settled. Those nuclear, I can't even say it, Metrosika dolls at the heart of every atom aren't so quick to reveal their secrets quite yet. Yeah. And there's a comment here, thanks. If it's too complicated for the general audience, just answer me privately, but I've tried to answer what I can do here. Don't forget that mankind expects to see something below. We break an atom up and we see electrons, protons and neutrons. We break protons and neutrons up and we find the quarks, strangeness and the charm, the leptons. When you can break a quark up, you'll find something else. So there's an expectation to find something else, but we create that something else. So although there's potentially 6 levels of quanta below the atom, giving the anew, these are based upon our expectations, not because they're actually there. We create them. We create these different levels, and actually we could create an never decreasing or never increasing level of detail, of depth, based upon what we expect to see, because we create it. Okay, the next question is from both FN and US. Okay, so let's look at this. Just one moment. And it's based upon backfield people. Okay. Backfield people in the previous Satsanga, you said that backfield people accrue karma very quickly because they don't know how to handle individualized free will. You also said that they are not responsible for the dissolution of their karma because it is being reabsorbed by everybody else. You have told us that double Donald Trump, and there's other leaders, by the way, is a backfield president with 2 backfield souls in his body. So there's a bunch of questions here based upon this. Okay, and we'll see how we go. In his karma, is his karma being absorbed by those people who voted for him, or all of us, even those who recognise him as backfield person and as a poster boy for karma based upon his low frequency thoughts, behaviours and actions, e.g. corruption, nepotism, bank fraud, tax fraud, malignant narcissism, sex scandals, etc. If animals accrue karma, why aren't backfield people exempt? Animals tend to accrue karma because of our interaction with them. So that's there because of us, basically. Sometimes they come into an incarnation with fears based upon how they've been mistreated by man, but they can also come into reincarnation with positive karma based upon how well mankind has interacted with them. Okay. So in this instance, yes, we all, not just those who vote for somebody, we all help clear the karma of every backfill person, because they are there to assist. They are of service to us, in totality, because they are helping those who haven't ascended to the next level to achieve that level of ascension in this particular level of frequency. So they're there to maintain the base population of the Earth, so that those who haven't ascended yet to the next frequency level can therefore do so. Okay, next question on backfill people. In one satsang you said that backfill people are not in the reincarnation cycle and that they incarnate once and leave. In another satsang you said that some of them will be allowed to reincarnate and they do accrue karma. Is someone like Trump and his children allowed to reincarnate to clear their own karma or not? Let's say Trump, who is a backfill person, encourages violence and his followers are hurt and held criminally responsible for their actions as a result of listening to Trump's orders. Trump does not occur or accrue karma. How do these others absorb Trump's karma? Just dropped my microphone there. There's very rare those backfill people who do come back, and those who've come back are usually because they've not responded in the average way. They've not responded in the normal way, and they show the possibility of benefiting. And so they are allowed to move into the possibility of becoming part of the evolutionary cycle, even though the vast majority, 99.99999% of backfill people don't. So, in this instance, that individual would. I'm not going to refer to Trump because I think that's probably distractionary. But in instance, somebody who creates karma, who is allowed to come, but that karma has been dissolved, but they're allowed to come back because they've got merit, and they are showing an evolutionary progression, would eventually be able to reincarnate and clear their own karma as it's accrued. But then they would have significant help from their guide and helpers. Okay. So the question is, how does one's karma get absorbed by another? Well, basically, it's if you can recognise it as being done in this way. This is an example. When we do something to somebody, we create a link, and that link is either dissolved by ourselves or dissolved by the individual who we've done wrong to or who's done wrong to us. And so we have to forgive them, and they have to forgive us, or we accept a reciprocal interaction with them. This is the classic thought process of karma. Somebody's karma can be, and this is probably part of another question later on. Somebody's karma can be removed by somebody else without them interacting with that other individual or that other experience or other environment that created the karma in the first place. But if that is being done as a result of a healer, then that has to be done with thought by the healer and by the individual who has gone to the healer for the healing and for the karma to be removed. So there has to be some level of interaction to say seeking forgiveness. There has to be some mantra said by the individual who desires to remove the karma, that they are interacting in a way which can be conducive to them wanting forgiveness or seeking forgiveness or giving forgiveness. Those who can have karma removed remotely through remote healing, for example, if say we're working on behalf of somebody else, the healer has to ask permission of that other person energetically to find out if they want to have that karma removed before they can do it. Okay, and so the links have to be done. So there has to be some level of, shall we say, reciprocal agreement that allows that karma to be removed, and we all have agreed to absorb the karma of an individual. So those individuals are those backfill people, for example. And the way we do it is we absorb, and you can tell now that we're absorbing a lot of karma. If you think of if you can reference all of the strange, wrong things that are happening around the world right now, those of us who aren't participating in those wrong things are absorbing that karma. And in some instances we do feel a bit aggrieved because of the things that are going on around us. And that level of aggrievement is a function of us absorbing the karma. The trick is not to become part of the karma, not to slip down the frequencies and interact with in the environment and others in ways that are consistent with the ways that that karma is being accrued by other individuals. Okay. So it's like all of the bad things that somebody's done, for example, we take on board, and then we would subconsciously then absorb it by seeking forgiveness or giving forgiveness for individuals who are doing wrong. So we won't know who these individuals are, but if we can rise above all of the bad things, like the abductions, the people being murdered in parks, for instance, people bombing people still warring with people still arguing with people still wanting to have status over people. If we can forgive all of that and show and articulate that, we can live in a better way, and we can act as an example in a non-egotistical way, then we have not only absorbed that karma, but we're showing how to create good karma as well. It's difficult, but that's by and large how it's done. And the individual who absorbs the karma will basically, and by and large, feel what that karma feels like. Okay. They'll feel associated with things. They'll feel drawn into thinking low frequency thoughts, behaviours and actions. The thing is not to. The thing is to stop it. So when you feel drawn into a low frequency thought, behaviour and action, it's probably because you're assisting in the negation of somebody or some group's karma somewhere in the world, whether it's close by to you or further away. And in another scenario, let's say we have a batterer who is a backfield person and his wife is fully sentient soul. Does the victim carry the batterer's karma in addition to their own karmic behaviour of having to deal with and accepting the responsibility? That's one person abusing another. If a person is in forgiveness, then they will forgive that person, but they will also need to leave that environment. It's not good to stay in an environment which is abusive, full stop. But you can move out of that environment, and you should move out of that environment, and you should forgive the individual for being what they are. So yes, that person will be dealing not only with their own karma, which could be positive karma because they are forgiving that person, but also they are creating a condition where they're entering into a higher level of frequency by moving out of that abusive environment. But also they're creating a positive level of karma by forgiving the person who has wronged them as well. So that's something else to think about. It's a difficult thought process for human beings to understand. Okay, to get around the fact that somebody who's abused us needs to be forgiven. But remember, Jesus said, if somebody punches you, offer them the chance to punch you again. That's their way of negating it, because you are absorbing their karma for them. That's why Jesus said, if somebody wrongs you, ask them to wrong you again, and eventually two negatives eventually make a positive. That's the way to think about it. Next question, next part here. I'm probably going to see where I can go with. So I might have to sort of again cut halfway through this and move on to the next set of questions. Corey Good says that when he was a young teenager, he was removed from his timeline to go work for a secret space program. He was working for them to interface with extraterrestrial Galactic Federation as a psychic and an empath for 20 years. Once his work was finished, he was brought back to Earth again. They cleaned his memory and he was again a teenager, as if he had never left. He was able to remember his past 20 years slowly, and now he talks openly about it. Okay. So the first part is, could you inquire from your guides whether Corey Good is saying is accurate? Is there an alien Galactic Federation? What I'm being shown here is that there are many groups that you could call a federation, if you want to call it that. There are many groups that work together, depending upon their supposedly geographical location within the physical universe at this frequency, or at other frequencies and other locations. They tend to group together to work on certain projects and things that benefit them all together. So there's not just one, there are many in this group of 3 frequencies and the other frequencies subsequently above this frequency. Okay. Does the secret space program have access to a time machine? Does the US government have access to a time machine? There's no such thing as time. And there's no device that we could use that would allow us to move from one particular event space to another. This is something that has to be done with our sentience. Okay, so the object of moving from one event space to another is not something that can be done with a machine, but it's done with sentience. It's done with with extremely advanced meditation processes. Okay, so, and whether those individuals will be asked by governments to do this sort of thing would be a detrimental request. So they wouldn't be able to do what they said they were going to do, because it's not an advantage to the general population. It's more of a negative use of a positive function of what we can do with them when we're at a higher frequency. So it actually reduce the frequency level of those individuals who are participating. Okay, so this sort of really negates the next question, really. Are the governments using time machines to predict the future and plan accordingly? Who are 5 or 10 people running? Who are the 5 or 10 people running the secret space program? There are people who are working with, so we say, other entities who are incarnate, and they are outside of the knowledge of most world leaders, let's put it that way, and probably outside of the knowledge, or should I say, the communicative ability of those we call the Illuminati. They are individuals who are working here in human form, but for the betterment of humankind, by working with other incarnate entities to monitor and work with how things are going, with the potential to, if needs be, change things dramatically if required, if things go horribly wrong. Okay. Well, the next couple of questions I want to leave till next Satsanga, because we are running out of time. So there's lots of questions there still for next Satsanga. Okay. And they sort of follow on from these 2 questions anyway, which is quite good. Okay. Let's just put those into that colour there. So I'm colouring these in just to let you know, so I can see what's... didn't work well. Okay. We do. Right. Okie dokie. So next set of questions are from another person. Okay, let's just have a quick look at who this is. Give you the initials. So these next set of questions from MD, there's 10 of them, but I'm only going to use 5 because we need to spend some time on meditation. So basically we've got almost half of the questions. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 14 questions we're going to pass over to April, because there's some good questions here, actually. So the first question from MD. In the law of one, they talk about the path of service to self as an option for progression towards the Creator. They say it is possible until one reaches the mid 6th dimension where higher self resides, because at that point separation becomes unity, and that's when they change polarity. So my question is you said karma is addiction to low frequency, so how can a service to source entity go up in frequencies? Because I think that's, using your explanation of karma, the service to self philosophy in itself is low frequency, and therefore creates the need for coming back to the same frequency band that it was created in, and this should block the being in the attempt to move towards the Creator. Service to the Creator, service to Source, in a selfless way, not expecting any praise or reward or respect, doesn't create karma. It is basically a pure function, and so in doing so, we wouldn't create any karma. In fact, we would be effectively able to negate karma by navigating through this particular existence in a karma-free way by being able to interact with others in a karma-free way, by being able to interact with the environment in a karma-free way. So in essence, we wouldn't attract karma by being of service, or even it's not even self-philosophy, because what we're doing is we're working in a way which is allowing us to work in a higher frequency way. And being of service, even service to self-philosophy, isn't low frequency, as long as it's not egotistical. If the thought process of how to work becomes philosophical, and it acts as an aid memoir for us to work in a way which is higher frequency, then it's not karmic. If it becomes egotistical, like I am better than you because I'm working in a karma-free way, then it does create karma. So it just depends upon how you work with it, as to whether the way that you're working can be classified as and does result in egotistical thought processes or states of beingness versus selflessness. Okay, that's the way to work with it. Selflessness and detachment and renunciation. That's the way to think about it. Next question. In the history of gods, he said that one problem with eating meat is that the animal has not given its consent. Does this mean that eating meat creates karma and need to reincarnate again? Eating meat per se doesn't create karma. What it does is it creates a state within us which is low frequency, because more often than not the animals have been slaughtered in a particularly stressful way. You know, abattoirs aren't nice places to be, and if you go anywhere near them, you can sense the stress of the animals. Even so-called, perfect ways of dispatching with an animal, this halal way, is also stressful. Anybody who says that their throat being cut isn't stressful, he's not the animal having their throat cut. There's confusion involved with it. So if we pray, if for instance we farm our own animals, we look after the animals and we feed them, we look after them, and we take the produce from them, such as cheese or milk, and they die naturally, and then we consume the body, that's fine, because we've then looked after the animal, we've loved the animal. And before we do consume the animal, we should then pray and offer thanks for the animal being being with us, being our friends, being our partners in some way, shape, or form while we're here. But also, if we do have an animal, or we go to a butcher's, for instance, then the choice of meat we have, we should also pray and offer thanks for that animal as well, for it giving up its life and its potential to experience more and evolve more, so that it can become food. And so if you pray, you can log into that animal, you know where it is. You can log into the animal and offer thanks for it, and that will help a lot. It helps a lot and that will help to negate the lower frequencies associated with eating another life, another incarnate form's vehicle. Okay, next question is, am I correct in assuming that some things we consider karmic are not necessarily always karmic, and the intention behind them matters too? For instance, I think gambling has the potential for creating karma if the intention comes from a place of attachment. Gambling is karmic, full stop. It's a desire to be rich. It's a desire to enter into something which is physical. Okay? People gamble because they want to get money. They want to have a shortcut to becoming rich. But the actual function of gambling is addictive as well. The feeling, the adrenaline associated, that's karmic. So every aspect of gambling is karmic, because it creates a low frequency thought, behavior, and action. Okay, so there are things that we consider karmic that might not be specifically karmic, but in this instance, gambling is one. I can't think of anything that we have to be very careful how we interact with the physical, really careful, because anything we do and can create an association with it that is karmic. Anything that creates a link with a desire or a favoritism that is specifically based upon the physical and the physical environment, and that includes cyberspace, is a link to the physical universe, and is therefore karmic. Okay, so next question. What about copyrights? Say I downloaded something for free instead of buying it. Does this create karma? If something is copyrighted, we ought to ask for permission for the individual who copyrighted that material to download it. More often than not, the individual will say, that's fine, no problem at all, enjoy. And that's why I put things on my website for free. And those that are paid for, such as readings, healings, or some of the correspondence courses, are paid for, because that means that there's an amount of work gone in there, which I feel, and the output of those particular correspondence courses create a condition that need to have a level of respect associated with them. So the energetic exchange of paying for them creates the respect for it. Sometimes if we get things for free, we don't respect it. So if we respect something, then it therefore becomes valuable to us. And in this instance, copyrights, some of the things like the lectures I've done, for instance, or the interviews I've done, I just put them on the website because they're there is information in there that should be shared, and there's no copyright against it, so it can be downloaded. But if somebody copyrights something, they feel that it needs to have respect, and so therefore we should ask permission for it. So that does create karma, yes. We're stealing, basically. We're stealing somebody's intellectual property rights, and so even though it's there for free, it would be the right thing to do to ask permission to download it. More often than not, we don't know, but we should pray for it anyway. We should pray for the possibility, and you'll know by praying. That means sort of praying per se. I mean, meditate on it for the permission to download it, and you'll know if you've been given permission because it will feel good. If it feels bad, if you feel like you're doing something wrong, then you'll know that you haven't got permission to download it. As simple as that. Okay. Next one, question number 5. I'm going to leave the next 5 for next Satsanga. You said forgiveness can dissolve karma. What happens to the receiver of wrongdoing? I'll start again. You said that forgiveness can dissolve karma. What happens when the receiver of the wrongdoing forgives, but after a while the hatred towards the wrongdoer comes back? Does this mean the forgiveness was never completed in the first place? Yeah, absolutely. Resentment, this is called. It takes a lot of gumption, a lot of, shall we say, determination and dedication to not wanting to accrue karma, to forgive somebody who does something wrong against you. Sometimes that wrongdoing can be so profound, it's like a massive blow to us, and it can knock us off centre. So we have to really sit down and coach ourselves to say that this person, 1, didn't know what they were doing, but 2, was giving us the opportunity to advance ourselves. So when we think that somebody's done us wrong, or done something they shouldn't have done to us, or has abused us in some way, we shouldn't think in terms of, well, they've abused us. We should think in terms of they've given us an opportunity to do something good, which is remove the karmic link with them. Most individuals who are doing this don't know what they're doing because they're part of it's part of their addiction to the lower frequencies of the physical universe, and so they're doing things subconsciously, maybe because they're not evolved, or maybe because they've chosen the life of being a life which is basically a protagonist to help others move on. And some of these people are those that love us the most, so we might have to think about, this person has done this to us to give us the opportunity to move forwards in a more advanced way. So if we don't forgive them properly and move on, forgive and forget is a very valuable saying. Forgive and forget. If we don't do that, then we do have the possibility of things coming back and biting us on the backside, so to speak, again karmically. So we need to totally be robust in our forgiveness and our forgetfulness of that which has happened, but also recognise that if this happens again with somebody else, we do the same thing. So we can use it as an example of how to forgive and forget in a particular way associated with a particular experience by particular individuals or particular personality types. Okay, well, thank you everybody for those questions. There's some fantastic questions here, and I'm going to use some of them for next time, most definitely. So I shall hopefully refer to them next time, because there's some really good questions here, and some of them are going to be quite, I can see here that some of them need deep answers, so hence me splitting them up into two. This particular Satsanga in March, and the next Satsanga in April. Okay, so let's go and do the meditation that we said we were going to do. This meditation in being in contact with, or feeling the presence of the Om. Okay. So I want you to sit in the correct posture for meditation, which is, if you're sitting on a chair, it should be a straight backed chair. And the small of your back should be in the corner of the chair. Feet flat on the ground, back straight, neck straight, palms faced uppermost on your upper thighs, very close to where the upper legs meet the pelvis. And then with your eyes closed, you concentrate your gently focused closed eye vision on the origin of the spiritual or third eye, which is in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And I want you to visualize, or you can use your mentally spoken words to achieve the same thing. If you have trouble visualizing, just say the words just repeat my words in your mind's voice. It's just as powerful, and sometimes more powerful, but because it's unambiguous, whereas visualizations can sometimes be a little bit difficult to maintain in a stable way. Just visualize that in front of you is a lift door. Okay, and this lift door is open, and inside this lift door is me, and I'm calling you, I'm beckoning you to come in. And as you walk into the lift door and into the lift, there are lots of other people. All of those other people who are listening to the Satsanga at any point, any event space, are all in this lift together, whether it was the now, or the future, or even the past, because they're all happening now. So as you come in, you're the last person to come in at this moment in time. I'll use the word time so it helps. You've not been holding anybody up, it's just that it's your turn to come in. And that everybody else is coming in concurrently. So everybody else has come in at the same time as you. So as you turn around and face the open door, I close the door. And I press the button for level 408. The 408th frequency is the highest frequency in the multiversal environment associated with our source. It's the top frequency in the top subdimensional component of the top full dimension. It's the 12th frequency of the third subdimensional component of the 12th full dimension. Now, we're not going to meet all of the Om, we're just going to meet those Om that are currently in this environment. The Om can move around, or some of them can move around. Pure Om can move from source to source in interfrequential, interspatial environment that is where the source entities are located within this current area, volume I should say, of polyomniscient, polysentient self-awareness of the origin. But of course they're a hybrid Om, a mixture of very small percentages of Omness with that energy which is source entity. And there are those Om that are captive Om, that are pure Om, but don't have the, let's say, the total mass of Omness that allows them to detach themselves from the environment that is the overall, let's call it sphere of sentience, volume of sentience and energy that is our source. And then of course there are those Om that are outside of all of the source entities, as I've just described. So we're going to meet the Om that are, at the moment, non-captive and captive Om. Captive meaning they can't move out of the energies associated with this particular source entity. So our lift goes up from 0 to 1, 2, and then 4, and 6, and 8, and 10, then accelerates to 20, and 30, 40, 50, then accelerates again to 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 315, slowing down at 400, slowing down at 405, 406, 407, and stops at 408. So we're at the highest frequency of the highest full dimension of the multiverse. We're going to commune with them, which means that each of your interactions will be, shall we say, private to yours or relative to yourselves, rather than every one of us that's in the lift. So communion is a rather personal interaction. But to do that, I'm going to remove any energetic barriers that we might have, and these energetic barriers are represented by the lift itself. So I dissolve the door of the lift, I dissolve the roof of the lift, I dissolve the back wall of the lift, I dissolve the left wall of the lift, I dissolve the right wall of the lift, and I dissolve the floor of the lift. So we're now all just floating in the space, let's call it, associated with this particular universal environment, that is the 408th frequency. So I'm broadcasting our desire to commune with the Om, whether they're captive or non-captive. And they come. They are interested in you as human beings, as incarnate human beings whose sentience is no longer constrained by the frequencies associated with their current incarnation. I ask that we all enter into communion together. I ask that we all merge into one. So the 7 captive Om that are here, and the 4 non-captive Om that are here, pure Om, allowing their sentience to blend with our sentience, so that we're all one sentience. There's no us, there's no them, there's no individuality, there is just combined sentience in communion. Feel yourself becoming attracted to this sentience that is just vast. Your individuality dissipates. Your limitations fade away. Your beingness is expansive. You know everything and everyone, because everything is one. All aspects of omness is oneness. We are all oneness. We're all beloved of the Om. The Om is beloved of the Om. Just experience the joy, the love, the bliss of being Om. Smaller individualized units in total communion with each other to create one Om. That one Om is also a function of the origin. Smaller function of origin that has individuality. You've been everywhere. You've been everything. You know everything. You are everything. All that has been experienced, all that's been created, all that is created, all that isn't created is you. You're one with the Om, and the Om is one with you, and you are the Om. This fully communal, sentience in communion as one sentience. Om sentience. You know what it's like to be Om. Because you are Om. Feel the harmony, feel the detachment, feel the knowingness, feel the beingness, feel that and be that Omness. You are beloved of the Om. You are the Om. And so it's time to return to where we came from, and the arms start to detach. We start to become individualized again, no longer part of the vast sea of Omness. We are ourselves, and the Om are their selves in individuality and communion in their own right. We slowly become our individualized selves, and the Om move away and go about what they were doing. The captive Om move back into the location within the multiverse they're working with. The pure Om move out of the frequencies, the energies associated with the multiverse, in fact associated with the source entity, and move back into the origins, polyomniscient, or volume of polyomniscient, sentient, polysentient self-awareness. To bring us back, I start to reconstruct the vehicle that we've arrived on. So the floor of our lift room materializes, then the right hand wall rematerializes, the left hand wall rematerializes, the back wall rematerializes, and the roof rematerializes, and then the door and the front wall rematerialize, and we're back in the lift that I've created as a method of getting you to this level, bringing you to this level, sharing this level. So the lift descends now from 408 to 407, 406, 405, and then 400. Then accelerates to 390, 380, 370, 360, 350. Then accelerates again to 300, 250, 200, 150, 100, 50, slows down then to 40 and 30 and 20, slows down again at 10, 8, 6, 4, slows down again at 3 and 2 and 1, finally comes to a standstill at what I'll call the 0 level, the earth level. Just wait here a moment and normalize. Everybody's bringing all of themselves back. And I open the door and you walk out. As you walk out, you find yourself in the room, the location where you're participating in this Satsanga. Slowly come back into that room. Slowly open your eyes. Take a drink of water to help ground you. Slowly just articulate your body to wake it up. Okay. So thank you very much for participating in this Satsanga. It's always an honour and a pleasure to share the energy with you. And just relax a moment, take a bit of time to come round, to reintegrate with this level. But also, don't forget that you will not be so visible, or not be so perceivable to those individuals around you, because you're a higher frequency. Okay, so the next Satsanga is going to be on the 24th of April. So I look forward to meeting you then, and also broadcast the agenda for that Satsanga. And may God's love go with you, Source be with you, and I send you all my love as well. And namaste to you all. Did you see the aliens in Crete?